Namaste. Welcome again. Gathering around the Life Divine as we do on Sundays, this time 12th of October 2025. We have established that Sri Aurobindo is a realist. The universe is a genuine expression of an undefinable reality, derived from that supreme, unknowable, whatever it is, that Sat comes from Asat, according to an Upanishad. Existence arises from what does not exist, meaning again that it simply transcends even the positive state of pure being. This is Sri Aurobindo's ineradicable and immovable position. And reality is omnipresent. If the moving universe is real, and that which does not move is real, they are still one reality, and present in all conditions, whether it is unknowable, whether it is transcendent, whether it is universal, whether it is individual, all remain one in manifestation and in essence. There is no division. Division is created by the human mind. So, it is beyond expression, beyond definition, beyond limitation, beyond positivity, utter. What is existence? Comes from beyond existence, like Chuang Tzu in Chinese Taoism would say. This idea is part of the province worldwide of mystics who have experience, not mere philosophers, not ratiocinative thinkers, but those who see with a vision beyond the mind. And such we find Sri Aurobindo to be. We've seen that this being is identical with consciousness, and that its nature is supreme felicity, unsurpassable delight, endless bliss. So there is at the bottom an existent reality, and that supports all else. So whatever we understand, that is what we're standing upon. That coheres. The world's structure is divisible, but always arrives at one. That is the number of supreme importance. Matter, even, has a bottom. Sri Aurobindo makes this plain in the Life Divine, that matter is not infinitely divisible, as Immanuel Kant might suggest. If it were infinitely divisible, it would approach what is the void, the shunya of Buddhism. It would approach that which does not exist, the nihil, the disappearance of reality. Sri Aurobindo stands against that. At bottom, there must be something from which the universe arises. We cannot measure it, assess it, but it is there. So, even when we look at the origins of the cosmos, coming through a Big Bang into manifest, broad, expansive, stretching out of galaxies and more, there is something underneath. To Sri Aurobindo, we could apply some word that we think has meaning, even the inconscient. Some people now want to regard that state before the manifestation, before the Big Bang, as the originating inconscient. We cannot know that with the mind. We can only understand what is that original darkness through mystic experience. And Sri Aurobindo has spoken of that in his luminous poetry in Savitri. Well, we are not nihilists, but we're going to look at what, in a sense, makes these opposing theories of existence useful to the human species. But first, here's a passage from Sri Aurobindo rather early on in the book, in a chapter on mind and supermind, which just gives us a sense of where he stands. In that consciousness, the supramental, there is no ignorance, because the infinite is known, and the finite is not separated from it as an independent reality. But still, there is a subordinate process of delimitation. Otherwise, no world could exist. A process by which the ever-dividing and reuniting consciousness of mind, the ever-divergent and convergent action of life, and the infinitely divided and self-aggregating substance of matter come all by one principle and original act into phenomenal being. This subordinate process of the eternal seer and thinker, perfectly luminous, perfectly aware of himself and all, knowing well what he does, conscious of the infinite in the finite which he is creating, may be called the divine mind. Mind here is capitalized. Page 175 if you want to see it in the collected works of Sri Aurobindo. So that gives us an idea of who this supreme person is that installs his very essential being in each thing that appears. There are things multitudinous, uncountable in number, but all of them multiply his being. Just that one. Did it happen without his attention? No. Sri Aurobindo insists. It's a deliberate mode of divine action. It is making manifest, stand to the front, what is essential behind. So, that is his position. Our thought for this hour is to look at the world-negating religions and philosophies for a moment, those that stand in opposition to his world-affirming view, and note that in his chapter on the cosmic illusion, Sri Aurobindo observes that any position or experience or outlook as governed and viewed by the human mind can be negated, just as it can be affirmed. This is a field, the human turbidities being what they are, in which we can gain no absolute ground. No certain victory has been won by the mind. Even its dissection of physical reality, more accessible than the planes of vitality or the planes of mentality, is elusive to human investigation. even what we've already achieved, even what we've already determined to be true, can in a few minutes, in a few decades, be overturned, can become, as he would say in Savitri, turbaned with a doubt. And that turban blocks us, obviously, from receiving a light from above. It wraps around our heads this indecisiveness so that we cannot know. So it is, in a sense, a cosmic question put to us. Ah, you wish to know what is the secret of my universe. You wish to know where you come from yourself, individual. Then you must take up a psychological quest, a spiritual quest. You must leave behind the ever-questioning human mind and rise in consciousness. Plunge into the depths of your own being. Only by getting as deep as you can and as high as you can you achieve what you're seeking. Because that is where you find the truth of self, of world, and of God. So are you ready, human aspirant? That is the question that we're left with. Philosophy can't satisfy. Religion will wind up only confining us. And even the most liberating world philosophies and viewpoints ultimately stand in our way. We become fixed in their stations, and we won't move, we won't grow. We see the Supreme Person able to adopt all these positions simultaneously. And that's what we must become. Master yogis capable of being in every asana at one time, by never leaving the original asana of our conscious being. So, we would say that the mind opens and proceeds from a fundamental ignorance, slowly groping, finding bits of data here, practical means of working that helps us to at least pretend that we have mastery over self, materials around us, beginning to control the movements of society even. And then slowly we climb upwards. But ignorance persists at every level of our attainment. So for Sri Aurobindo, the evolutionary ladder, if we're talking about the mind, would include the mind operating at all levels. So the physical mind, the life mind, yes, there's that too, and the philosophic mind. And they all fail uniquely. The physical mind, unsure of its conclusions, turned over by its own endless questionings, its assaults upon itself, enters finally in agnosticism. It says, I cannot know. It is impossible to really know. And so it sits, and so it rests. The vital mind is disappointed in the values of life. Its satisfactions are temporary. Its reversals are many. And it finally retires in disgust, saying, I don't want any more of this. So the physical mind, the vital mind sit. The thinking mind also finds that it cannot be satisfied with its own mental constructions, founded on imperfect data, without an ascertainable substance behind. So to it, whatever appears in time and space is born of the moment, is relative, has no lasting value, is perhaps dreamlike, illusory. And our social ideals, pinned on such wavy ground as this, begin to fail as well. So none of the codes that we bring forward as worthy of conduct succeed in illuminating our steps in front. We find impasse after impasse, one ethic colliding with another. Witness the Bhagavad Gita at Kurukshetra, and nothing improves over millenniums. So thousands of years pass. We develop technology which fails us, turns on us. We try to satisfy ourselves with endless gratifications. None of them really please us. And the only thing that seems to be permanent is our ignorance. So that's where we stand. And this would suggest to us that perhaps a renunciatory attitude, a rejection of life, ought to be our way. It ought to be the quick exit to the right that we take and just leave this world. And given its chance, the principle of negation has been in earnest combat with the principle of affirmation for lo these many thousands of years. We have world-canceling philosophies that devalue life and would usher us away into the immobile or a void that escapes all existence. They can have a utility. Sri Aurobindo points to three great formulas that tend to support world rejection, that appear within these world-negating philosophies. Karma, freedom or escape, and Maya. Karma was, in a sense, redefined by Buddha, who died, I guess, about 385 BCE, and then left to us a method by which we could unchain ourselves from slavery to the rounds of existence. First, we had to recognize that we identify with what we do. We identify with what we seem to be. The shell of a being that we have, the actions that are undertaken, cause us, from close examination, from familiarity, to identify with them. So we come to believe this is what we are. But easily we can see that all these things are capable of disassembly. They can all be taken apart. How can we find the original cause of what we did? There was a predecessor to that. There's something that succeeds it as well. So both before and after, there is some kind of continuity. Is that line of continuity our real being? And for Buddha, who redefined what karma is no longer simply a ritual action, as it would have been in Vedic times. He rejects that idea and says, no, what you do by intent, in a sense, is yours so long as you are that. The way to get out of it is to seize your suffering by seizing identification with these instruments and appearances that claim to be you. You're convinced it's you, but I can show you through meditation and through a different kind of action in the world, how to relieve yourself of that burden, and you can exit. There is an exit. The blowing out of existence, nirvana, is the extinction of the ego. And it seems to be the extinction of all being, because what one moves into in that state can't be defined. Felicitous, perhaps, but beyond definition. A blowing out of what you are, perhaps, but if there's no you anymore to point back and say, what was I before, then that is a void question. But it does certainly take the person living in the world out of the world. Only the best of the aspirants in Buddhism make it, get to that state of liberation and enlightenment, but those that do no longer work here in this field. Roughly 1,000 years later, Shankara, who died about 750 CE, brought forward a thought process which accused this world of being utterly deceitful, that it does not exist, that it is a cheat of Maya. Brahma Satyam Jagat Mithya. Brahman, the unmoving, the vast, the supreme existence, beyond the universe, unmoving, the universe always moves, Brahman never moves, is steadily at peace, in one state, careless of all. That is real. This world is phony. And somehow we have allowed ourselves to be deceived by a play of Maya. Now, you'll remember Maya from our studies in the Upanishads, and from the last time we went through Life Divine, and when we went through the synthesis of yoga. Maya, in the oldest form as a philosophic notion, speaks to the inner capacity of the Supreme Being to measure out within itself the infinite into the finite, to apportion itself, to put all of its essence really into a form, so that the form fully represents what that is, secretly represents, but always is present. It is an omnipresent reality, even if it seems to be small and contained. That is Maya in the old sense, but Maya to Shankara is that which divides us from the reality of ourselves, cunningly convinces us that we live in a world, that we are, that the world is, and none of that is true, because only Brahman is. Brahman must be complete, must be entire, cannot be divided, cannot be multiplied. It is one. This is Parmenides with a vengeance. And this is the renunciation of Buddha, but with a finality. Buddha himself, having achieved enlightenment, said, should I bother to try to tell people? They'll ruin my teaching. It won't last 800 years. But I'll try. And he came back and worked sedulously to enlighten those who could come to him. And by the way, it is recorded that more than 200 people, while he was alive, achieved that liberation. Show me other sadhanas with that kind of success ratio that managed to put people into contact with a greater reality. Whether it is ours or not, whether it's the dark side of Brahman, not the full, if it's not Purna, for us it's not enough, but it is real. Buddha, and to some extent Shankara also, offered routes to freedom, to get out of being chained to what seems to be, to get back to what really is. Different languages, different vocabularies, but their psychological paths are genuine. They do lead one out of the grasp of the phenomenal. If we only believe we are phenomenal, then, and you know, I don't mean that in the in the popular sense. I know you're all phenomenal in your own way, but if we are merely what appears, then we're stuck. We have an essence. We have to know what that is, and then we can be really phenomenal. So karma offers us insight into what action is and is not if we wrongly identify with the movement. And if we've wrongly identified, then to gain freedom by the dissolution of the improper imposter self is the proper course for us. The universe, not our problem, right? In that context, karma only matters to get free of it. You're not worried about the world. That's another limitation. That is not Sri Aurobindo's view. We are always concerned and arm in arm with the universe, with the world, the various worlds, and all creatures in the world. So moksha, this idea that we can gain freedom and be seated beyond the divisions of time and space and the flux of circumstances, and an ineradicable peace, that's a truth. And it's a truth for us too. We want to be lively, bright souls as we evolve on this earth, but we must also be the self with a capital S and achieve that great spiritual stance at the same time that we're the joyous, bubbling psyche, afire with a quest for knowledge, for power, for joy. Both things must take their seat in us. So in that way too, we are not discontinuous with what those paths offer. But Maya to us is not our enemy. We are here ensconced in closed and limited forms by choice. And we can free ourselves. We can find the key and liberate ourselves, and then liberate more than ourselves, but society too, and live in a gladdening way with the nature around and move all of us together again, arm in arm. Maya, a deceiver? Who is deceived? Is it the divine deceiving himself, herself, itself? Is it the universe which is being deceived by Maya? Is it merely individual? Then it would seem, if it's merely the individual, that it's an individual problem, and we get back to the originating condition of human ignorance. We discover that we don't know. We discover that at our best we have to be agnostic until we can achieve spiritual Gnostic reality. Then we're free. Then we're full. Still, there is that salutary result from what might be a mistaken worldview. Buddhism and Shankara's Mayavada intend to do good, intend to release the spirit from bondage to appearances. And we applaud that. We agree with that. We further that. But we must improve that too. Whatever carries the consciousness towards and into freedom from identification with the instrument, even our instrument, is worthy of our support. So the psychotechnologies that produce the liberation are welcome. But once freed, we must continue to grow. Freedom is the first step. Whether the freedom is from our own karma or a cunning machine that would keep us imprisoned, we are not the machine only. This only opens the subject. This does not encapsulate Sri Aurobindo's view, but it's a first step. I have time for Savitri. So, Canto 4, The Secret Knowledge, in Book 1, the Book of Beginnings, page 55 towards the bottom. Excuse me. A consciousness that knows not its own truth, a vagrant hunter of misleading dawns, between the being's dark and luminous ends, moves here in a half-light that seems the whole. An interregnum in reality cuts off the integral thought, the total power. It circles or stands in a vague interspace, doubtful of its beginning and its close, or runs upon a road that has no end. Far from the original dusk, the final flame, in some huge void in conscience it lives, like a thought persisting in a wide emptiness. As if an unintelligible phrase suggested a million renderings to the mind, it lends a purport to a random world, a conjecture leaning upon doubtful proofs, a message misunderstood, a thought confused, missing its aim is all that it can speak, or a fragment of the universal word. It leaves two giant letters void of sense, while without sanction turns the middle sign, carrying an enigmatic universe, as if a present without future or past, repeating the same revolution's whirl, turned on its axis in its own inane. Thus is the meaning of creation veiled, for without context reads the cosmic page. Its signs stare at us like an unknown script, as if appeared screened by a foreign tongue, or code of splendor signs without a key, a portion of a parable sublime. It wears to the perishable creature's eyes the grandeur of a useless miracle, wasting itself that it may last a while, a river that can never find its sea. It runs through life and death on an edge of time. A fire in the night is its mighty action's blaze. This is our deepest need, to join once more what now is parted opposite and twain, remote in sovereign spheres that never meet, or fronting like far poles of night and day. So, I hope you're all well. Stay so. Be bright. Be beautiful. Namaste. Jai Ma. See you soon.